Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, starring Jerry Springer with Gene Galvin and me. I am Maria Corelli. We are recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience here in Folk School Coffee Parlor of Ludlow, Kentucky. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Springer.
Oh, thank you. Whoa. Thank you. No, really. Oh, man. Whoa. Slow down, everyone. Oh.
All from four people.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know, are you following this, but you have a new television show coming up next September. Called
that's
Judge
right.
Jerry.
I forgot.
You know what
Judge Jerry.
That made me wonder. I wonder if when Maria opens the show with, and now here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Springer, she ought to be saying, "All rise."
For Judge Jerry.
Yeah.
Well, at least let's say let's hear it for the Honorable Jerry Springer. I'm not going to ask people to rise because we're getting older.
So you think we're incapable of standing up?
Yeah. So let's keep everyone where they are. You know, we're thankful everyone got here. So we're asking people to actually stand. But no, that would be nice. The honorable.
I could do that.
I'd like a little, 75 years. Let's get
all
some
rise,
respect.
and then you could say the
His
Honorable Judge Jerry Springer.
Oh, there we go.
Because that is just so freaking ridiculous. The
Do
Honorable.
we need to call you Your Honor?
I think
would
we
hope
should.
so.
I think that he should be called Judge from here forward. We should say Judge.
All right.
Hey, by the way, Judge, I wanted to ask you,
This
why
is
in
too
the
much.
hell
Yes.
you went to Northwestern Law School?
Yes.
And I tout that as one of the best law schools in America. I think it is, isn't it?
It's an excellent law school.
Considered to be one of the top ones. Have they, and if not, I suspect the answer is no, or I would have heard about it, but shouldn't they honor you? Isn't there some top alum law school grad?
Fat chance. But I'll tell you what did happen.
What?
10 years ago was my 40th anniversary of graduating.
Right.
And so they invited me to give the speech at the 40th law school graduation.
Are you
you
serious?
go.
I didn't know
honor.
that.
Oh, yeah, I did.
That's a big deal.
Well,
So
such
the
a
law
big,
school graduates.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
But there was such a protest.
There was?
Oh, there was a protest, and it was big in the Chicago papers.
What?
Oh my
But
God.
I did it anyway.
You did?
Yeah.
And they allowed you
That'll
in
show
spite
them.
of it.
Well,
yeah.
the school was a little embarrassed because they
didn't
hadn't
pull
thought
back.
it through. Oh,
Oh, that's wonderful.
and
They really
I walked
so
in,
sad.
and of course, well, the students were great. I mean,
Yeah, they all thought it
everyone's
was
here.
hilarious.
Yeah, they
probably.
just, yeah.
Dude, they do Jerry as
Yeah.
you came in also. That's
I'll
great.
say, you guys defend criminals, and you're
Right.
upset that I come in here to talk?
Right.
Yeah, but no, I
Fantastic.
got to do that.
Well, now that it is, and I keep saying this, but it is true, you are adjudicating actual cases from around the country. They're small claims cases.
Right.
But you are will be a real judge as much as all the judges and all of the jurisdictions
we're
around
not
America.
reinventing the wheel here.
No.
All those court shows, they have legal validity.
Yeah.
And so when you agree, what they do, the producers, go on their computers and they look at courthouses all around the country and find interesting cases that have been filed. And then they call up, if it's a real interesting case, they call up the plaintiff and the defendant, wherever they live in America, and say, would you like to be flown, in our case, to, Stamford, Connecticut, and have your case adjudicated by Jerry Springer on television?
I had no idea they were.
Well, there's a lot of screaming that goes on initially. I'd rather plead guilty.
Yeah.
No, but and so and a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a hoot," because as Gene said, these are small claims, so it's $5,000 and less. It's not like your life is on the line here. But a lot of people think, yeah, that'd be great, and they're on television, and they get flown to Connecticut. So that's how they find the cases. But you sign a waiver of legal validity that whatever my decision is, you can't appeal it in a court of common pleas or anything else. So, and that's true of Judge Judy, all of them. So that's how
You're
it
going to
works.
think this is a joke, and it isn't. But after you do this show, And you're getting a little long in the tooth. You're about 86 years old now. And I mean, come on.
So rude.
You know, no, seriously.
We're going to be running this show 20 years from now.
Yeah.
That's why we say that.
No, listen. You'll be a TV judge.
Yes.
And I wonder if the day will come when in Ohio, where you have great political standing and history here, you'd have to move. Yeah, come in and run for judge and it could be like a re-elect on your campaign signs. It could say re-elect Jared. No, I can't because you weren't elected. You were appointed for, what do you get, about $8 million a year to do that show?
That's how
yeah.
they did it.
Return.
Judge, right, for the Ohio
Jerry
Supreme
Springer.
Court.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I think it'd be amazing. Hey, there are.
How much am I in line to then be governor? Am I third in line?
I'd say you're at least
Does
third,
everyone
fourth.
in Ohio have to die before I'm governor?
Maybe, yeah. I'd have to
7
die.
million people pass away.
Yeah.
I'm next in line.
I'd have to die, and I live in Kentucky. No, hey, by the way, we have a great musical act coming on tonight. It's Jeff and Missy Pearholtz, but what is the name of the group?
Yeah, they're the Duo Jets.
The Duo Jets, and they have their. We'll talk to them about that. I know you will.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own another band, but this is like a pull-out thing they do, which is very cool.
Oh yeah.
We heard the mic check, and they're really professional.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
really
another
good, very
great
tight.
great local act out of this tri-state area
That's
too.
right. That's right.
We are just wealthy with awesome music.
We
here.
are, Maria, and we're very
Spoiled.
lucky. And she's too humble to say, but she happens to be one of them too. Local performer, performing in various setups, sometimes alone, sometimes with groups. By the way, you are the only judge who is also a celebrity ringmaster, circus ringmaster. I'm not referring to your TV show, but tonight,
We're doing
raising funds
Yes.
for a foundation that supports
You can come
local
in.
kids from Ludlow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if folks want to come in. We got some chairs in here. But we have a foundation that helps local kids from Ludlow, Kentucky, where Folks School Coffee Parlor is.
Yeah.
To, number one, experience circus skills and activities, because there are, believe it or not, there are jobs available.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, just seeing their acts.
And next door, there is a place called Bircus Brewing. It's also part of Circus Mojo. It's a wonderful place. It combines great craft beer, cooked up by a local brewer and Sean, and then combined with circus acts. And Jerry's going to be the celebrity ringmaster of all of that. So if you're listening live and you're anywhere near Ludlow, come on down. That's happening next door. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. A lot of attention's focused on Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
And he has pled guilty and he's going to prison. And it made me wonder, is there a difference between the payoffs of Donald Trump to two women in particular to silence them before the election, about a week out from the election, and what Bill Clinton did? And Bill Clinton was impeached. So does this all connect with impeachment?
That's a fair question. And to be honest, a lot of us who, we're on the left side of the political spectrum, and we were very upset that Bill Clinton was impeached. We were saying at the time at least I was saying at the time, that, we didn't vote for him based on how good a husband he was or what he was doing sexually. As long as he was doing a good job running the country, that was the issue. And this certainly wasn't something that's impeachable. And that was my position then, and many of us had that position. And it must have been the public's position simply because he was impeached. He wasn't removed from office because the votes in the Senate weren't there. And from that moment on, Clinton never had as high approval rating in the polls that he did after the impeachment effort. In other words, he became a sympathetic character, and the public rallied around him, mostly on the idea that, we know what he's like. That wasn't, it's improper. No one should defend that. But that's a separate question, whether or not you should be president of the United States. And in fairness, that has kind of been the view that Americans have taken for example, I don't think any rational person should say that because FDR was having an affair, and maybe several, but certainly one, that during World War II, let's throw FDR out of office as we're taking on the Nazis and the Japanese and, the Axis powers in World War II. Nor did anyone say Eisenhower shouldn't have been, running D-Day because of his affair, and JFK with the Cuban Missile Crisis. In other words, we have been pretty adult as a society about this, not condoning it, not saying this is appropriate behavior, but it's a separate issue when you're talking about world leaders and the kind of decisions that they're making, that you kind of have to say that what is the priority. So therefore, I don't think it ever was justifiable on the Bill Clinton matter to remove him from office. And now we come to Trump. And certainly a lot of people on left of center in America, a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents and even some Republicans are saying that Trump's behavior, regarding sexual misdeeds is abhorrent. And now the issue of impeachment has come up because it more than appears he's pled guilty to it. Cohen is saying that Trump ordered him to pay off these women 2 weeks before the election so that it wouldn't stop him from becoming president. Why is this a little bit different? And I'm going to start out by saying only a little bit different, because you might be surprised with where I end up on this. If it's only sexual misdeeds or a cover-up of a sexual misdeed by itself, I don't believe that rises to the level of impeachment. And I don't think it's good for the country that it does, because we're not going to have any stability in our politicians or in our government if a government only lasts so long as the people in the government are in their personal lives pure. It's just, the party that loses will always try to find something to get the guy removed. And we have to recognize that we choose our leaders based on elections. So as much as possible, so you stick with that. You don't change policy and you don't change the government through the method of impeachment. It's too extreme. What makes Trump's case a little bit different, though, is that with Clinton, it had nothing to do with the running of the government or any policies, and he didn't do it to cover it up to get elected because it was towards the end of his second term. So he was leaving office anyway. So there was none of it related to what the policy of our government was or what we were doing in international affairs. So it really did turn out to be an immoral act, but it was, in a sense, private. It had to do with his character, but not with the running of the government. With Trump, however, it is arguable, particularly since the election turned out, well, he lost the popular vote by 3 million votes, but because the Electoral College was only by 80,000 out of 130 million votes, it is entirely possible to say that 2 weeks after the Access Hollywood tapes came out, where Trump, was recorded saying those awful things about how he treats women, 2 weeks after that, if this would have then come out that he was, having affairs with these women right after his wife had a baby, that could have switched enough votes. So in fact, this criminal act, and what's a criminal act? Because you're paying someone to affect an election illegally and not reporting it as a campaign contribution. So there's no question it's an illegal act. The question is, does it rise to the level of impeachment? But since this, you could argue, if he had not done that, he might not have been president at all. And so all the chaos we've had for the last 2 years, we wouldn't be going through. Maybe other problems, but not these problems. So you could say this isn't just a private act that he committed, that this literally affected the world in terms of our international relations. So it's at a much higher level of effect to the American people. And you could argue that, therefore, that does rise to the level of impeachment. Do we have someone in office who, but for breaking the law, would not be president? That's the question. Would he have been president except for the fact that he broke the law? That, all of a sudden, becomes the high crime and misdemeanor. Having said that, not to give you whiplash, I'm going back the other way. I don't think this is worth impeachment. This is. I'm not talking about what happens with Russians. This, what he did, I don't think impeachment is the answer. And the reason is, number one, it wouldn't be successful at this point because the Republican Senate is not going to vote to remove him. The Democrats will have the votes to impeach him, but he won't be removed because that takes the vote of 2/3 of the Senate, and that's not going to happen. But beyond that, the length of time this whole process is going to take brings us right into the middle of the presidential election. So we have a chance to remove him from office anyway. Is it worth putting the country and setting the precedent? Remember, we've never removed a president from office by impeachment. Nixon was the threat of impeachment, but no president has ever been removed from office by impeachment. Is it worth putting our country through this when 2 or 3 months later you would have the chance, assuming that Trump doesn't resign in the meantime, you would have the chance of removing him from office anyway? So I think it's for the good of the country that we don't go through the impeachment process for the sexual offenses, because that's only going to lead to resentment. If it takes politicians to remove him from office, that's going to be a lot different. You know, the people that voted for Trump say, we voted for him, we're Trumpians, and now you're taking our vote away because you politicians want to do that. That's a lot of resentment. It's much easier for the country to accept if after the next election Trump is removed from office. So I would argue no impeachment based purely on the sexual offenses. And one final exception to that, to whiplash back the other way. The only reason you forget everything I say and go for impeachment or even for indictment. Now, I know you're going to say, well, there's a policy in the Justice Department that you cannot indict a sitting president. But did you hear what I just said? There's a policy. It's a memo that the Justice Department has put out on prior occasions and saying it's our policy not to indict a sitting president. Nowhere is it a law that you can't indict a sitting president. So I am saying, if it turns out after this Mueller investigation that clearly we have the conspiracy between the Russians, particularly through the financial doings of Trump and his company, if it shows that the financial dealings result in the Russians owning him and, in a sense, controlling our government and controlling our policies, then that requires an indictment and an impeachment, whatever is quicker, right away. On something like that, if we are now being governed by a foreign power that is not our friend, every day matters. Every day matters. What is our response going to be in the Middle East? What is our response going to be in Korea? Who is going to believe the president when he goes on national television and says we have to do this? So if that is the issue, not the sexual issues, but if that is the issue, then you can't wait for the next election. You got to go with impeachment or indictment and take it to the Supreme Court. They'll hear it right away. But just because it's a policy of the Justice Department, it's not the law. So in those extreme circumstances, you could do it. So finally, there's the rule. Sex is not enough to impeach a president. 2, if there is reason to impeach a president, because it affected the election and it's close to the next election, don't go through the process of impeachment, because the people that voted for Trump will resent that you're removing their vote. Wait 2 more months, have the election, and you can remove him by a vote, and that'll be much more accepted. And the only exception to all of that is that, as I said, if the Russians really are running our government, that is so extreme that requires immediate removal from office.
And that's why I say re-elect Judge Jerry Springer.
Garajki. 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 It's a Russian word, which means a key that opens a garage. What do you think it means?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredible group here with us tonight on the podcast. And I want to give a little bit of a background. We've had all 3 of them. There are 3 of them standing up there. We've had all 3 of these amazing musicians on the podcast before in different carnations. Before we've seen the newbies, and then there's Michelle Himmer has been on it before as well. And together, you guys are the Duo Jets, and we are so happy to have you. Please, I would like you guys to give us a little bit of a background on you guys, and then also, I understand you have a cool event coming up, so tell us about that too.
Yeah, so we all were friends when we were in college together, and Michelle and Jeff knew each other before I even knew Jeff, and Jeff and I are married, so this is why this is kind of an interesting fact. And Michelle and I essentially learned to play guitar together when we were in our early 20s, and she...
Last week.
That's right. But and then after graduation, she moved to LA and to Nashville and pursued songwriting and had quite a bit of success publishing her songs for television shows. And every time she'd come and visit us in Cincinnati, she was like, "This is a really fun music scene." I'm like, "Yeah, just move here." So she finally did. Woo! Yeah.
I am here. Finally.
So we started as a duo, hence the Duo Jets, and then, Jeff is my husband, and he's always at shows, so we figure we might as well throw him on a guitar every now and then.
And he's a legend, so yeah.
Yeah, and then the show coming up is Women of Rock, which is, and it's a tribute show that we're going to do at the Southgate House Revival on December 28th. And it features a lot of really great powerhouse female vocalists in town, Crystal Peterson being one of them, Rio Van, Michelle Hemmer, my friend Elena Jaber, and myself. And the newbies and the Just Strange brothers are the backing band.
December 28th.
Yeah, it's going to be a party.
So excited.
Yeah.
And tell us about the first song that you guys are going to play here. We'd love to hear it.
This is actually a Christmas tune that I wrote with my husband. My husband notoriously likes the really sad, melancholy Christmas tunes, so this is one of those.
So this will cheer you up.
This will cheer you up. Yeah.
I mean, Jerry already cheered us up, but...
It's true. we thought we'd bring it lower. No, it's good. Okay. It's called This Christmas Day.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, baby. It's been a long year, but I was thinking maybe we could talk about it, say what we need to say, just get it all out, let it melt away. It's been a long year, it's been a long year. Can we put the past behind us on this Christmas day? The
Wow.
Such a beautiful song.
Thank you very
Brian.
much. I want to say my husband's name. Brian was Nicky. He was the co-writer. Sorry.
Well, we're going to have to cut your pay for that.
Yeah, I understand fully.
What's 0 minus?
Yes. I'll just pay you $10. We'll be fine. We got this.
Will you guys please sing Down by the Riverside for us? And if you would, maybe have Jerry join in on a
Well,
verse.
that'll break the Christmas spirit.
He's going to have to give the
That's
$10
like getting a
back.
lump of coal.
All right, sounds good. Here we go. I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. Don't study war no more. I'm gonna study war no more. Ain't 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 gonna study war no more. Take it away, Jared.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.
I ain't gonna study or no